Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some big news for Sooner fans. As former Texas Tech commit Ivan Carreon has committed to the Oklahoma Sooners. This kid decommitted from Texas Tech late last night. I saw it on Twitter. I'm saying I knew the Sooners were in on him. I just thought it was a matter of when. He commits to the Sooners this afternoon, and this is a massive get. Just from an athletic standpoint, the athletic background of Ivan Carreon is very intriguing, right? Track and field athlete and basketball athlete, and you see that stuff show up on the film. And we'll get into the film in a second, but uses his body extremely well. And when he gets out in open space, he is extremely hard to bring down with that big frame. I'm really excited about, I want to talk Ivan Carreon and talk about what he's going to bring to the Sooners offense. I also want to talk about how this wide receiver room is shaping up for Oklahoma in this 2024 class, and then talk about some targets potentially popping in July that we got to talk about. Now, before we get into it again, just want to say shout out to the Sooner fans. We just talked Xavier Robinson and Wyatt Gilmore. Xavier Robinson being one of my guys in this class. You guys showed just a ton of support. So if you do enjoy the content, you enjoy the updates, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, appreciate all the support. And the Sooner fans, extremely knowledgeable. We always talk some good football in the comment section. So appreciate each and every one of you guys checking the boys out. Let's get into Ivan Carreon. And again, the big thing is the frame. 6'6", 195. Also very productive his junior year. 51 catches for 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns. Also carried the ball 14 times for 81 yards and was used in kick and punt return. Like, this is a guy that he's not only just big, he is good with the football in his hands, and that's something you're going to see show up on the film. And you take a look at this wide receiver room, some big size, right? Zion Kearney going 6'2", runs a 10.8 900 meter. Ivan Carreon, a guy with a track and field background, goes 6'6". And then you got 5'9" KJ Daniels, who absolutely burns from the state of Louisiana. This is a very interesting wide receiver group for the Sooners. I want to talk a little bit more about Ivan Carreon and what he brings to the table, because his film is very, very fun to watch. You're going to see a little bit of everything, right? You're going to see the basketball ability to use his body and go up for the football. You're also going to see him get to work after the catch. Here's a little bit of basketball for you, right? Like, really comfortable tracking the football, using his body, and that's what I mean. Like, that kind of encompasses the two things that when I watched this film, I was extremely excited about. Is one, extremely comfortable high pointing the football, which is massive. Like, sometimes you're just big. It doesn't matter if you're big if you can't use your body to go up and make plays. He can do that, and then when it's time to run after the catch, he just doesn't go down. Again, Drake London vibes from USC a couple of years ago in the sense that this big frame, defensive backs just have a really hard time dealing with him. And he's got some feet to him too, like 6'6", 195, but he can move, change direction a little bit. And then when he does get turf, the wide open green, like, he can make it happen with the burners as well. This is a guy that I think is going to be used primarily kind of vertically to stretch the field, but he's a guy that can put defenses in binds in a lot of different ways. And he just seems like a matchup nightmare. Like, when you have the burners that he does, and you see it a little bit there, the ability to track the football as well. When you have the size and speed like Ivan Carreon does, man, I think this guy's going to absolutely do work. And I think he could be used over the middle of the field too. They use him a lot in the boundary, kind of working up the boundary. And yeah, that DB doesn't stand a chance. Way too small. But I think he could be a guy that if you want to use him in the seam, kind of like a jumbo tight end, almost like Braden Willis last year a little bit, I think that would make a lot of sense too. Let's get to the Sooners class, right? I don't think they've added Ivan Carreon in yet, because we're doing this right when it happened. It's a top 40 class. This is the 11th commitment. They'll probably move into the top 30. And we've kind of been preaching. Like, Sooner fans, it's too early to be down on this. We have a ton of targets on the board for Oklahoma that we'll get to. This is a class that I wouldn't be surprised ends up being a top 8, top 10 class in the country. And another thing that's worth mentioning, and we talked about this previously, I could see a lot more flips coming, not necessarily in the month of June and July, but when we're talking about November, December, when it's time for these players to sign and the Sooners are going 11-1 or 12-0 and being legit college football playoff contenders like we think they can be in 2023, that's when you might see some flips. Like, this is a blue blood program that people want, or players want to go play for. And if they start showing that this ship is going in the right direction under Brent Venables, that's when I see this recruiting class kind of pick up. So I'm not saying they're going to have a bad July. I think there's a lot of commitments that are going to be happening for the Sooners in the month of July. But man, in November and December, when the Sooners start winning some football games, that's when you're really excited. Now, I want to talk about this wide receiver position real quick. Zion Kearney, top 100 national player. He's the perfect blend of like size, 6'2", 220 pounds, very well put together. Also happens to run a 10.89 100-meter dash. So he's got that size and speed. You have a guy like Ivan Carreon, who I'm very excited about. And then KJ Daniels. He's a guy we talked about months ago, kind of an out-of-the-blue commitment. And we said he didn't have any stars next to his name according to 24/7 Sports when he committed. And we kind of talked about he's going to be a guy that once he commits to Oklahoma, people say, oh, who's KJ Daniels? Let's go check him out in Franklinton, Louisiana. He's going to get some stars. And again, maybe a little bit disrespected because he's only 5'9", 150 pounds. This dude absolutely burns, and the short area quickness is off the charts. I really like how this wide receiver room's coming together, right? Zion Kearney's probably your wide receiver one, like that future go-to guy for Jackson Arnold, Michael Hawkins, or Kevin Sperry, whoever it may be, probably Jackson Arnold. That being said, you also have a big body target in Ivan Carreon now, who's 6'6", and you just match up nightmare. And then you have just KJ Daniels, who get the football to him in space and let him go to work. They'll probably put some weight on him when he gets to campus. It's a nice wide receiver room that's coming together. And now for the exciting part, right? What could this class look like? And we've been talking about it a lot. I think there's a very real possibility that Taylor Tatum, David Stone, and Williams Emoneri are signing with the Sooners in 2024. And I don't think that's even outlandish to say. And you talk about getting those guys, 2 top 10 national guys, and then the number 1 running back in the class. That takes this class from sitting around 30 nationally to a top 8, top 5 class easily. Terry Bussey just came out with his top 5. The Oklahoma Sooners are in it with that. I know Dominic McKinley, he's been getting some traction to Oklahoma, although that seems like he's a Louisiana guy. And then Nigel Smith and Caden Durham. I hope if they miss on Taylor Tatum, which it sounds like Oklahoma's in the lead, Xavier Robinson and Caden Durham is a very intriguing running back duo. And again, very similar to how the wide receivers balance each other out. Caden Durham, 5'9", 180, burners in terms of track and field. And then you got the big body Xavier Robinson. I like that. Nigel Smith, top 100 national recruit on the defensive line. Brent Venables is hammering this defensive line. A lot of the top priorities for BV in this 2024 class are on the defensive line, and you saw him do that in the transfer portal as well. So the Sooners right now, not necessarily where they want to be with this 2024 class in terms of commitments, but again, it's the summer. These kids can't sign anything till December. And even if these guys are committed to Texas or Texas A&M or some SEC schools, it is not too late for Oklahoma to make some traction. You just saw a flip of a commitment in the summer. A lot more flips happen in the fall once coaching changes happen, once on-the-field play happens. For the Oklahoma fans, if Oklahoma starts turning it up in the fall like we think they should, I really do think it could get really fun for Oklahoma. And just getting down this list, I want to go back to who they had on campus. Williams Emoneri, very interesting. I mean, like we talked about him. I still think Oklahoma's for that. And then Grant Bricks. Nebraska's trending for him, but he's a guy, if Ben Biedenbaugh wants to turn up the heat on a guy like Grant Bricks from the state of Iowa, I certainly could see that coming in too. The amount of talent that the Sooners have had on campus is very encouraging, right? And maybe they haven't verbally committed to the school yet, but this thing is going to get going, and I think it's going to get going rather quickly. So again, if you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We will be updating you guys as much as we possibly can in the month of July with the Sooner commitment. So appreciate you guys rocking with the boys as usual. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.